I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. Today, I'm in Homewood, Illinois at a brand new African-American owned bookstore, a woman-owned business, Beyond the Book. Google that, Beyond the Book in Homewood, Illinois, more than just a bookstore. This is a place where creativity meets connection, nestled inside the bookstore. Our cafe offers thoughtfully brewed coffees, curated teas, and pastries that pair perfectly with your next great read. Whether you're here to relax with a book, meet a friend, or fuel up between projects, the space is designed to inspire both comfort and creativity. Particularly honored to have the privilege to bring our show to Beyond the Book. Sometimes we have to travel on the road, and I'm grateful that this African-American owned business has given us the opportunity to use her Wi-Fi, but also to showcase our show and our work. It's Thought-Provoking Thursdays on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show, where our regular host, Dr. P.L. De Silva, who has over 20 years experience of backroom diplomacy, mediation, and negotiation. He's taught politics, international relations, and several undergraduate programs at universities in New York, New Jersey, Long Island, and Queen's University of Belfast, Northern Ireland. Dr. De Silva's publications include Postmodern Insurgencies, Political Violence, Identity Formation, and Peacemaking in a Comparative Perspective. Dr. De Silva, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Thank you, Jesse. Glad to be
Dr. De Silva, in this hour, we're also joined by the president of Lead Integrity and professor at Occidental College, directing their flagship United Nations program, Dr. Azam Karam. Dr. Azza, how are you?
I am very well, Jesse. It's so lovely to see you and be on your show again.
I'm honored and privileged to have you here. Dr. Azza, I couldn't get over the op-ed that you published in Al Jazeera. I'd like to read just two brief paragraphs at the very beginning of our program, because we're going to discuss this over the next hour, because this particular article really shocked me, and it's very thoughtful. It begins, for more than 40 years, Western governments, multilateral institutions, philanthropic foundations, and private contractors constructed one of the largest political engineering projects in modern history, the attempt to manufacture democracy abroad. With billions of dollars, thousands of programs, and a sprawling ecosystem of actors, the West pursued a deceptively simple goal: to transplant liberal democratic norms into societies emerging from authoritarian rule. The strategy assumed that if elections were supported, civil society trained, parliaments strengthened, and the rule of law institutions modernized, democratic governance would naturally take root. But this grand experiment, Dr. Karam writes, rested on a profound misconception. As Thomas Crothers argued more than 2 decades ago, the West was wedded to a specific transition paradigm that insisted all states emerging from dictatorship were on an unidirectional path toward democracy. This assumption produced a democracy promotion machine designed around linear expectations and technical fixes, rather than political realities. The heterogeneity of cultures and histories, and centering the dynamics of behavioral change. The uncomfortable result is now undeniable. The period of greatest Western investment in democracy coincided with the greatest global democratic decline. In many cases, the very tools of democracy assistance enabled authoritarian consolidation. Dr. Karam, your article is amazing. It is worth reading, and we are going to be discussing this for the next hour. We have about 2 minutes before we come forward. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Azza Karam.
Thank you very much, Jesse. I think you read the most important part of that article already, and I'm grateful that it has shocked you. I think that was part of what I'm trying to get people to see, and to feel the shock, because feeling the shock is part of getting to changing a number of things that absolutely need to be transformed, most especially our understanding about behavioral change.
I think it's becoming increasingly clear that the American experiment that substituted billions of dollars right behind colonial and authoritarian regimes, that our assumptions were wrong, that we have made some profound assumptions that, quite frankly, are unraveling the democratic order. Dr. De Silva?
Yes, and you can see it closest to all of us, all around us, with Trump 2.0. You can see how the democratic institutions, the federal government, and everything is being dismantled. And part of it is the uncanny business that after the failure of Trump 1.0, that people actually went and voted for him again and got him back into office. I mean, that's the thing that really beggars belief. And it seems that we have not learned the lesson, and it is now a little bit too late. We are 1 year into Trump 2.0, and people who actually voted for him are now like, oh my God, what did we do? And you can see, I mean, in Miami, you have a Democrat as a mayor for the first time in 30 years. And you have Mamdani in New York. So you can see all of these things. And now Trump is scrambling with this whole business of affordability. But it's not only affordability, because his presidency truly is toxic for the American people.
We are listening to PL De Silva, Worldwide with PL De Silva on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. And our very special guest in this hour is the president of Lead Integrity and a professor at Occidental College, directing the flagship United Nations program, Dr. Azza Karam. More when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Find what you love, love what you find. A Total Wine and More. There's so much waiting for you. Spirits and beer, thousands of wines. Guides in the know and prices so low. It just might blow your mind. You're gonna find what you love and love what you find.
With curbside pickup and delivery available, you'll always find what you love, only at Total Wine & More.
Drink responsibly, B21.
Break out the champagne. Everybody get a glass.
KBLA Talk 1580 congratulates our own Keith Underwood, host of the weekend entertainment show Black in the Green Room, on his recent honor at the annual National Arts and Entertainment Journalism Awards. Keith received a first place award presented by the Los Angeles Press Club for his entertainment reporting, and we couldn't be prouder. Congratulations, Keith, from all of us at KBLA Talk 1580.
Time is up. The IRS is in full collection mode for 2025, issuing liens, levies, and garnishments to anyone who has a past tax debt or unfiled tax returns. Don't wait till it's too late. Your paycheck and bank accounts are at risk of being seized. Call now and stop the collection process today. If you're living check to check, no matter how much you're making, you still may qualify for the Fresh Start programs offered by the IRS to reduce or even eliminate your tax debt. It's just a 5-minute call to get your options, and it's free. If you owe back taxes, have years of unfiled tax returns, under audit, have a wage or bank levy, or finally just want to sleep better, business or personal, call the experts at Republic Tax Relief while there's still time. A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau, and tough. This veteran-owned company has the fight you need to take on the IRS. Don't go at it alone. The call is free. Call their hotline number now, 800-260-3330. That's 800-260-3330. Find out if you qualify today, 800-260-3330, or go to republictaxrelief.com.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Wally drops the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me.
The article, How Investing in Democracy Failed and Enabled Authoritarianism. I want to walk on this live show with Dr. De Silva, but more specifically, our very special guest, the president of Lead Integrity and professor at Occidental College, directing their flagship United Nations program, I want to walk through some critical elements of this article with our listeners. First, beyond the thesis, Dr. Karam, you argue the U.S. democracy promotion machine represented outputs without outcomes.
Mhm. Indeed. And I think the issue here is there was plenty of outputs, X amount of workshops done to train whatever, X amount of institutions that were created or that were eventually put together, X amount of trained professionals, either in the judicial sector or in the political parties or in civil society, etc. There was plenty of that. But what we can see very clearly is that instead of all of this institutional and investment in specific sectors, instead of it leading to a more democratic set of norms and actions, it has actually meant that certain people, i.e. the age-old elite, remain very much in power, and this time remain in power empowered by precisely the same set of activities, initiatives, and resources that were meant to create and lead to a democratic transition. But we instead have intransigent, very much rooted, old elites with no intention of transitioning to democracy, i.e. no intention of being held accountable.
That's a profound point, Dr. Karam. You then go on to argue that multilaterals and the rise of supply-driven democratization have also created a problem and a troubling approach.
They are simultaneous. We tend to think only of the United States doing X, Y, or Z. The truth is that the United States and a chunk of Western Europe have been holding the reins within not only their respective countries, but around the world, as well as within multilateral institutions as we know them today, for instance, the United Nations. So when one set of actors weakens, the entire infrastructure is actually also weakened, a reflection one upon the other. They're not separate mechanisms, Jesse. The multilateral world as we know it today has the United States, the United Kingdom, France as key permanent 5 Security Council members of the United Nations system, i.e. decision makers within the United Nations. Their investment in so-called democracy abroad is very similar. There is very little to distinguish it. Their stay and hold over the United Nations Security Council, the key decision-making body, is where they fail in what they do outside, they fail in what they do within the UN system. They are the same actors operating in different places. And what nobody wants to acknowledge is these are the new and old colonial actors who are now have been pretending over the last, and have been investing plenty of money, by the way, over the last 5 decades, trying to institutionalize democracy or to lead to the rise of democracy. But you don't do that when you haven't changed a fundamental misperception, which is that you cannot control others. You have to collaborate with others. You have to be accountable to the very same other you think yourself better than.
You know, Dr. Karam, when I traveled around the world, even before I got elected to Congress the first time, I bumped into the Ford Foundation. I bumped into Hewlett. I bumped into board members from these companies who were funding projects on the ground in the name of democracy. You argued that philanthropy and the donor-dependent civil society model has not worked either.
Indeed not, because at the end of the day, one of the most oft expressed sentiments during the so-called Arab Spring was by many of these multilateral institutions, by the United States government, by a number of Western European governments was, who are these people on the streets? Where did they come from? Who are they? Well, gee, you should have known, because you should have been working with these people, but actually you don't know them because you were only working with the elite. And you were only working with those specific groups of the elite that you were comfortable with, because there's other elite that you may not have been too comfortable with, who may have been too religious, may have been thinking too differently from you, may indeed have looked very different from you. But if you continue to invest in the elite that you trust, quote unquote, They are the ruling elite. And the civil society also includes those who are very much part of the ruling elite and whose dream, if they aren't part of the ruling elite, they dream to be co-opted by the ruling elite such that they may become part of the ruling elite. Those are the people who were supported for decades by our institutions, whether in the United States or indeed across Western Europe. And it was not just in the name of democracy, Jesse. It was also in the name of development. It was also in the name of human rights. We have a lot of people much more savvy about democracy and human rights, but they're much more savvy about how to use and abuse those terms, institutions, and privileges. They're not necessarily savvy about how to be held accountable to the rest of their populace for precisely those values.
Dr. Azza Karam is the president of Lead Integrity and a professor at Occidental College, directing their flagship United Nations program. Dr. Karam, before I bring PL back into this conversation, you're suggesting also that there is a democracy industry. Yes. That is almost a prepackaged proposition that shows up in the developing world to promote these notions of democracy that from the inside, as an American, a perspective looking as kind of do-gooders, if you will, but on the ground, these projects have only institutionalized that very elite that you just spoke of.
Absolutely. And instead of elaborating what's already in the article, Jesse, let me just tell you an anecdote. And this anecdote is of going to a number of countries and speaking with a number of people as part of the democracy promotion industry myself. Because remember, I have served in those spaces. I'm not looking at them academically or theoretically from outside. I have been one of those tools and actors in the attempt to promote democracy and democratization endeavors in different parts of the world, most especially in my own part of the world, in the Middle East. So here's the story, Jesse. I go to a number of different countries in the Middle East. They shall remain unnamed, if you don't mind, because I'd like to go back to them again. And I meet with these so-called civil society, democracy promotion, human rights actors. And in almost every one of those countries, I get taken aside because I am the one of the Egyptian background who can speak Arabic, and this is Arabic-speaking countries. I get taken aside by the head of this particular organization. Remember, this happened in more than one country, yeah? And I get told in different ways, of course, but the gist is this. Okay, look, really happy to hear all the talk about how valuable democracy is and all that stuff, but let's cut to the chase. How much are you guys going to give us to do this work?
How much
and
are
that
you?
Was the chase. That was it. That was it. It was the money that was going to be transferred, that was going to ostensibly, how would that ever work, Jesse? That it's about the money that you're going to give to these particular civil society organizations, and they're going to take care of making sure that they can bring democracy come about. They're part of the elites. They made money. They were able to increase their bank accounts, their social standing. They became part of the ruling establishment, which was very smart to maneuver them, to get to know about them, to have them alongside. Et voila, we have a much more democratic series of countries around the world, don't we? I'm being sarcastic.
PL?
Yes, so this is also reflected with the end of US aid. So when US aid was destroyed, a lot of these elites that were receiving money from USAID to do this so-called democratization work just kind of withered and died overnight because their funding source, dried up. I mean, of course, there were people who were doing good work, with on the health side and reproductive health and things like that. But overall, the people who were involved in the political enterprise of democratization, they just disappeared, and that's the whole thing for us to be aware of, that all across the globe where USAID was active in Central and South America, the continent of Africa, South Asia, Southeast Asia, all of these people all these countries had their non-governmental organizations that were receiving money every year from USAID, to conduct these workshops and institution building efforts, etc., which by and large, were divorced from the popular politics of those countries. So you can see what happened in Sri Lanka. You had a left-wing, landslide elections in Sri Lanka, which were not connected to USAID. You had a similar thing happen in Bangladesh. Pakistan is being contested, and the story goes on. So these are the people that suddenly appear, like in the Middle East with the Arab Spring, and the USAID folks and their counterparts in those countries were none the wiser.
I think it's important, if I may, to also delineate exactly along the lines of what Dr. De Silva said. These people have not disappeared. They have simply faded a little bit into the background, but they never disappeared. And this business, this enterprise of democracy creation and democracy building started right after the end of the colonial era with the nationalization. When many countries became independent, this entire effort started then. So this goes back a long time, and there are generations of folks who have tried to do this. But I think one of the most important things, and I do allude to this in the article as well, it was an investment in trying in reworking or restructuring or attempting to better or improve, whatever the terminology is, the structures that are supposed to deliver on democracy. It was an investment in the structures delivering politics. It was not an simultaneous investment necessarily in the service provision part of it. Those that did invest in better health, providing better health care, providing better educational systems, those that did invest in that, they were not the elite. And the folks who do this work of saving lives and improving minds and knowledge are not necessarily part of the elite simultaneously. But it was trying to focus on the institutions without looking at the broader publics and how they spoke, what they needed, what was their priority. If we had perhaps, and this is really a perhaps, had there been a simultaneous investment in the social service provision of things, which is, by the way, what right-wing religious parties did and do. They invest in hospitals and schools and clinics, even in transportation systems that can be an alternative. When you invest in the service provision, your likely outcome to understanding what communities need and serving them is much better than if you try to invest in institutions and structures, which will ultimately always be operated by the folks in power anyway. We see this happening here. So I argued that because we didn't take into account the religious organizations who are the principal, longest serving, longest standing social service mechanisms, because we didn't take those folks into consideration as much, because we didn't try to support them as much, we actually ended up focusing more on the political institutions and infrastructure, which is a pity. But now that we're seeing, some of us are seeing the value added of the religious institutions and organizations, we're going overboard with that. And we're trying to co-opt them into the mainstream political infrastructure, because now these are all the good guys. They're going to solve out they're going to sort everything out. They're going to be the best. Neither approach is wise. It isn't about fully investing in the religious. It is also not about fully ignoring the religious. There is a medium there that has to be defined stability processes. So both have to be done. Social service, political infrastructure, and all actors have to be on board. Not only the religious, certainly not only one religious, but actually the religious, the secular.
I agree with you. I just want to make this one point before we come forward. We have essentially packaged democracy and tried to deliver it on a silver platter. But the reality is we did not start out as a democracy. Every right that we have as Americans is an earned right. Mm-hmm. And it is through vigilance that we are willing to fight and die to protect the rights that we've had and that we enjoy. We started out as a republic.
Yes, and do that, but just there are people who have done this. There are people who are doing this still today. In Egypt alone, there's over 60,000 prisoners of conscience. There are people who are prepared, who have died trying to do this honorable thing in their respective countries, but they have not necessarily been the ones that the industry operated from the United States and Western Europe have tried to support from within their communities. And nor should they.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. This is Worldwide with P.L. De Silva and Dr. Azza Karam. She is the president of Local president of Lead Integrity and professor at Occidental College, directing their flagship programs. Today, we are in Homewood, Illinois, a cafe experience at a book company headed by an African-American woman. Beyond the Book, Sip, Read, Connect, handcrafted espresso drinks, specialty teas, locally secured pastries, and light pastries. I am particularly honored she has welcomed us into her program and into her office on this occasion. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. More on KBLA Talk 1580 when we come forward with Dr. De Silva.
The biggest names, the best conversations. You're riding with Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. President Trump is reclassifying marijuana from a Schedule 1 to a Schedule 3 drug, easing federal restrictions.
This reclassification order will make it far easier to conduct marijuana-related medical research, allowing us to study benefits, potential dangers, and future treatments.
Trump says the change is meant to help Americans living with chronic pain and other serious health conditions. Former Vice President Kamala Harris says Democrats are, quote, stuck in the past, end quote, and often ignore new voices. Speaking on a podcast, she criticized the party for giving, quote, lip service, end quote, to listening without real engagement. And a lawyer says fired Michigan football coach Sharon Moore, who is Black, has a history of domestic violence against a university staffer. Moore was arrested December 10th, hours after being fired for an inappropriate relationship. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
For victims of drunk and drug driving, our grief is unique, but you are not alone. You always have a place at MAD. Call our 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The biggest game in the NFL regular season jumps off tonight in Seattle. The Rams and Seahawks, both 11-3 in the NFC West, meet up in a battle that will have a major impact on the number one seed in the NFC playoffs. A win tonight gives the Rams the inside track with 2 games remaining. 5:15 kickoff on Fox 11 and Amazon Prime for all you streamers. Former NFL linebacker Hardy Nickerson, who grew up in Compton, made some history Wednesday in California high school football. He's the first Black head coach to be hired by a school in the prestigious Trinity League Conference. Nickerson, a 5-time Pro Bowl selection, was hired by J. Sarah High School. Nickerson led Bishop O'Dowd High School in Oakland to the Division V AA State Championship this season. The Trinity League has produced 5 state champions since 2019 and has 7 players on NFL rosters this season. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio that's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, a.k.a. the Voice of Reason, encouraging you to join me weekdays from 7 to 9 p.m. for the world's most intriguing relationship radio roundtable. Every night, I facilitate and encourage our loyal listeners to participate in the most engaging relationship discussions you'll hear anywhere. So make it a point to rendezvous with me, Zoe Williams, the Voice of Reason, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Trust me, your relationships will never be the same. The VOR is on fire tonight.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Nugget Bills, Nuggets all the way.
Hi, I'm Kylie.
I'm John.
And I'm Garrison.
And a little thing we love about the 30-count Chick-fil-A nuggets
is sharing them when we cut down the Christmas tree.
We will pack the car with gifts. And of course, we go and pick up our family's favorite nuggets.
Every nugget is tasty times quadrillion.
And we get all the sides.
Yeah, the ooey gooey mac and cheese is a big hit.
Share the nuggets, share the joy. Order the 30-count Chick-fil-A nuggets on the Chick-fil-A app. Real guests paid for their testimonials.
We asked seniors how to prevent Medicare scams.
My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not talk to the person. These people are well trained. Don't talk to them.
They don't know me. They're just trying to scam me.
Don't be fooled. Hang up. Just hang up.
Never give out your Medicare number.
They're going to get your number to put in a false claim.
If I get a call from someone, I don't pick up the phone. And should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement.
Check your statement every month.
If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
Call your senior Medicare Patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 855-613-7080.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with the world. African Focus Incorporated is a community-based organization whose mission is to bring Africans and African Americans together, lead charitable initiatives on the motherland, and educate people from all walks of life on the beauty, legacy, and opportunity of Africa's 54 nations. And it's that time once again when African Focus is teaming up with KBLA Talk 1580 for our 8th annual African Focus Trailblazers Tour. Travel with us in 2026 when we're headed to the Southern African nations of Zambia and Botswana for a historical, cultural, and vacation tour led by me, Dominique DePrima, Cultural Ambassador for African Focus Incorporated. Enjoy luxurious accommodations, conscious fellow travelers, shopping, adventures, cultural tours, wildlife safaris, and a giant waterfall, one of the world's 7 wonders, along with a chance to be of service at an orphanage on the continent. Become an AFI trailblazer by exploring the motherland with a nonprofit organization that has members in Africa and America to help roll out the red carpet for you, and together we'll make a difference and have fun doing it. For more information, visit africanfocus.org or call 310-676-7300. That's 310-676-7300 or africanfocus.org. Whether it's stateside or exploring the diaspora, we're with you every step of the way. African Focus and KBLA Talk 1580. Come go with us.
You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on Thought-Provoking Thursdays. We're worldwide with Pio da Silva and Dr. Aza Karam, President of Lead Integrity at Occidental College, directing their flagship United Nations program. I do have a couple of questions to our guest as I bring them forward. In this moment, while we took this 6-minute break, I'm saying to myself that Dr. Karam's piece reminds me of a couple of things that Ruth Bader Ginsburg said that I do think matter. And I'm wondering if Dr. Karam co-wrote this with Ruth Bader Ginsburg. She said, listen carefully, everybody, I would not look to the United States Constitution if I were drafting a constitution in the year 2012. She says, every constitution written since the end of World War II includes a provision that men and women are citizens of equal statures. Ours doesn't. She goes on, a prime part of the history of our Constitution, and this is important to me critically, is the story of the extension of constitutional rights to people once ignored or excluded by the Constitution. Dr. Karam, I get the impression that you're saying packaging democracy in the framework of the modern American mind and delivering it on a silver platter, when these may not be rights that grew from the grassroots, from the very bottom of the society, that became enshrined in these societies as governing principles, that our democracy projects around the world are simply flailing.
Well said, actually, Jesse. And I think there's an important caveat here. It's very easy to become culturally relativistic, and that has happened, where people say, oh, these countries, these folks are not, they can't do democracy. They don't have democracy in their culture. They're culturally not suited for democracy. That is an incredible misperception, because at the end of the day, the root of democracy is the freedom to choose and the freedom to hold those in positions of power accountable, and the freedom to be accountable to those who look to you for making decisions and looking after a system. Everybody wants that. There is no such thing as a certain culture that does not want that. The issue here is not whether the democracy was delivered on a silver platter by a group of people who understood it in a certain way only. Yes, that did happen. But there is also the fact that it wasn't about trying to understand what the yearning for democracy looks like in different communities, in different contexts. It was also about not wishing to change a particular model that you have for what democracy should look like and what the strive for democracy should be. And I worked in institutions which had a specific understanding, international institutions, not USAID, international organizations who had a specific understanding of what democracy should be, what democracy promotion should look like, what people who want democracy should be doing. I am criticizing that way of trying to understand and assume and make happen how others should dream democracy. It is about understanding what people need and want and how to serve those needs and wants, and what that process would look like that may be very different from what you and your folks and your people and your country and your even continent wanted or did or looked like. And part of what we're struggling with here is understanding the other. So rather than the business or the industry of democracy promotion actually making us more humble about what we have as democratic norms, expectations, structures, mistakes, misapprehensions, instead of rendering us more self-critically reflective to take responsibility for what we do, what we understand as the requirements of democracy in the United States or Europe, instead of that, it has become over the years about trying to impose that same notion that you have that may well be riddled with its own mistake, exactly along the lines of what Ruth Bader Ginsburg said. It is riddled with its own problems, but you take it and try to impose it on others, believing, as the others would make you believe, some of the others would make you believe, that this is okay, fine, we'll work with you towards realizing this. But it isn't about imposing a particular norm. It is perhaps, and this is the biggest lesson that we missed, Jesse, and that continues to be missed. It isn't about improving the other. It is about working with the other to improve together ourselves, which may well entail, in fact, must entail, looking critically at what we have as understandings, as norms, as values, as structures, and seeing what is not quite right there, instead of making sure that you do it the way we think it should be done. What if the way we did it is wrong?
Stick a pin in that right there for a second, because Dr. P.L. De Silva, in this moment, there's a whole bunch of people on CNN who shouldn't be on there, and Dr. Aza Karam deserves her own show. There's a whole bunch of people on MSNBC who ought not be there. Dr. Aza Karam deserves her own show. But I want to pivot for just a moment with PL. PL, listen, we, in our democracy project, told the Persians that we want the Shah of Iran to be to run the country under his regime, and we, got cheaper oil for it. We've told Zelensky in that democracy project, even as he fights with Russians and tries to maintain his democracy project and join Europe. And by the way, we want the critical minerals. And just yesterday, Donald Trump told Mr. Maduro down in Venezuela, in their failing democracy project, that's our oil anyway. So we're going to take it. PL, the democracy project comes with some quid pro quo, and it also comes with a little bit of crime. How am I saying? It's not a lot of. PL, break this down for me.
Right. So let's take Venezuela. So everything that's happening down there, and what the White House is telling us, is actually contravening international law. It is contravening the sovereignty of Venezuela, whether we like Maduro and the Chavistas or not. That's not the point. The point is that we need to observe and respect the sovereignty of Venezuela as a country and their national resources. We can't put our grubby paws on their oil and say it's ours. You need to give it to us. There's no way. And by the way, I want to tell you that Chevron continues to be sending tankers with Venezuelan oil without any hindrance. So that's also something to keep in mind, that there's no issues with Chevron taking out oil from Venezuela. Those tankers are coming to the US without being stopped by a gumboat diplomacy. There's also rumblings within the US military where, seniors, very senior officers, a US admiral who was in charge of Southern Command, he resigned 2.5 years before he was due for retirement because they don't agree with the White House policies. This is brigandism. And if you look at the law of the sea, UNCLOS 101, this is piracy in the high seas, taking the skipper, the tanker, and towing it to Houston and saying this oil cargo is ours. It's simply not done. And it is it's colonialism and imperialism at the worst. The mask has fallen. We're not even pretending anymore.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. This is KBLA Talk 1580 worldwide with P.L. De Silva and our very special guest, Dr. Azza Karam. More when we come forward.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
It's never too early to start talking about money in realistic ways with your kids. JP Morgan Chase navigates how to educate your kids now about creating long-lasting, healthy money habits. Whether your kids are in elementary school, high school, or college, now is a great time to start a conversation about ways to create healthy money habits as they grow, ultimately benefiting their financial future. Talking about money in a realistic way to support your kids' lifestyle and dreams, your first banking account geared towards high school or college. It's never too early. Explaining the basics, what you earn and what you spend, building financial confidence starts with getting organized. Learning and practicing vital money skills now will stay with them for life. Tools they will have to stay on top of their finances and achieve their goals. This segment is sponsored by JP Morgan Chase. Unwrap LA this winter with Metro. Whether you're heading to a family gathering or last-minute shopping, Metro's got you. Enjoy free rides across Metro on Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve. Move with joy. Move with community this holiday season. Go Metro.
In California, all workers have rights, no matter their immigration status. If you or a family member were detained by federal immigration authorities and did not receive your final paycheck, contact the Labor Commissioner's office. You can file a claim even if you left California or the U.S. Call 833-526-4636 from the U.S. or outside the country 001-833-526-4636. Document wage theft and report it to the Labor Commissioner's office.
Hear that? That's the sound of your life. Perfectly imperfect. Beating in rhythm to the world you've created. But every time you drive after drinking, music gets drowned out. Your life sounds pretty great. Don't let a buzz ruin it. Buzz driving is drunk driving. Don't drive buzzed. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Imagine a Los Angeles where everyone can thrive. where communities have access to the resources they need to succeed. That's the vision of Detours Mentoring Group, Inc. They're dedicated to improving life in LA County by providing educational support, employment assistance, and spaces for community engagement. By 2050, they want LA to be the best place to connect, create, learn, live, and play. They're working toward an education system that's well-resourced and culturally responsive, becoming a hub for artists and innovators, and making sure everyone has access to healthy food, quality healthcare, and safe housing. It's about building a future where we all have the chance to succeed. We invite you to learn more about their mission and get involved with Detours Mentoring Group, Inc. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
I can't believe how spotless my floors look after using the Swiffer Power Mop. No more dragging around a heavy mop and messy bucket. Now I get the same deep clean without all the work. Thanks to the powerful solution and scrubbing pad of the Swiffer Power Mop, dirt and grime don't stand a chance, and I don't break a sweat. Mic drop. Mop drop.
Swiffer Power Mop. Swiffer Power Mop.
A smarter way to mop. Try it or your money back.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Quality drops the beat. Come on and talk with me.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. You're listening to Worldwide with Dr. P.L. De Silva and our very special guest, President of Lead Integrity and Professor of Occidental College, directing their flagship United Nations program, Dr. Azza Karam. Dr. De Silva and Dr. Karam, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Thank you.
I'm going to try and leave a word of hope at the end of our program for Dr. P.L. De Silva to deliver, to give him a moment to think about it. In fact, I hope we get to it, because I do have two more questions of Dr. Karam that I think bring this article, which is available in Al Jazeera, published on December 14th. And it's titled, How Investing in Democracy Failed and Enabled Authoritarianism. My final two questions, Dr. Karam, and please take your time. Why did democracy aid fail, and how did it create a strategic adaptation of authoritarianism? And last but not least, the irony and the tragedy. Democracy's aids actually enabled authoritarianism.
So just very quickly, a clarification. The Arabic is the article is available in Arabic only on Al Jazeera, but it is available in English on lead-integrity.com, which is our website. And you'll find the English version there. Very quickly, your two questions can be answered in one very simple and a slightly more elaborated answer. The simple answer is democracy failed over there because it failed over here. Our attempts to bring democracy to the world were riddled with the imperfections and outright failures of our own systems of democracy. And what we can see today isn't just that folks over there didn't quite get it, but it is the fact that the way we imposed it, or we thought it would be imposed, did not take into account our own institutional and systematic weaknesses of values, of implementation, and of understanding and inclusivity of the broader population. Democracy here is hanging on a thread in the United States of America, which is the realm of everybody's democratic achievement for a long time. But democracy in America is under threat. That is also why the systems of democracy abroad that were supported by both American and Western European are under threat. These things go together. Had we spent a bit more humility on understanding where our own deficiencies are, especially in the fact that we never paid reparations to those that we oppressed systematically and took the lands of and then made into slaves, that we never thought that this was something owed to the people, that we never took into account that our systems of election are still based on some very
contemporarily unnecessary understandings of how elections should be and electoral systems should work, that we refused to understand that by not being inclusive, it's not a favor we do others, but it is an imposition of our own arrogance of specific groups of the elite. We never questioned our own systems of democracy. We therefore exported problematic systems of democracy abroad. The process begins, like everything else in life, by looking within to see how we can improve our own understandings, values, implementation, praxis, and policies. Then we can work with those around us to see how they aspire and dream freedom and democracy, but not by trying to impose a rigged, problematic system on anyone else.
There are at least 2 shows on CNN that could be replaced starting tomorrow with perspective from Dr. Aza Karam. PL, it doesn't get any clearer than Dr. Karam's analysis. Dr. Karam, just before we go, and PL gives us his word of hope, can you share with us how we can reach you in the event that we want you to have a broader audience for those listeners who need the proper guests to help instruct and share with the world where we are right now? How can we reach you?
Thank you. That's a very nice question. Very kind of you to ask it. Lead-integrity.com. That is the website. I am there. I can be reached there. Always towards the end is where you can reach me. I'm always available. Besides, you know how to reach me, Jesse. If the people want me, they can come to you too. But first, they need to elect you to Congress.
I appreciate you, Dr. Karam. PL De Silva, we've got about 4 minutes. Take your time on whatever you want to talk about and also give us a word of hope.
Right. So while we embark on a great project to restructure our politics, our political system here in the United States, the immediate note of a positive note that I'd like to strike is that we need regime change, and for that to happen, we need to organize like during the times of the civil rights movement. We need to bring out the vote. And in the midterm elections next November, we need to show everybody who's the boss. It's not the loudest voices that are the bosses. It's the people whom we don't get to hear from, who don't have a platform to speak. It's their time to go out and vote and change what is happening to this country. It is a great country. Many, many people came to this country because they believed that there was something called democracy in this country. But now we see all the racism that's coming out, all the class aspects where the poor people are being downtrodden. And it's as if poor people don't matter. And they are the majority. And this 1% of toxic billionaires are the only thing that matters. That's the only show in town. Come on, get a life. We need to bring out the vote. We need to chase these people out. We don't need billionaires in our politics. We need to stop the super PACs. We need to stop these guys with so much money who are destroying the electoral democracy that we have in this country. We also need to get rid of the electoral college, because that's an archaic throwback, and that's simply not on in the 21st century. And we also need to stop all this gerrymandering that's going on, redistricting, redlining, marginalizing, people who are brown and black, and marginalizing them, and also oppressing the first peoples in this country from whom this land was stolen. So we need to give back, and we need to give back plenty. And in order for us to do, the first step is the midterm elections, to show who is actually the boss.
I am so grateful that Dr. PL De Silva, who has a 20-year history in backroom diplomacy, and Doctor and President of Lead Integrity and Professor at Occidental College, directing the flagship United Nations program, Dr. Azza Karam, has been our very special guest. These are our favorite duo on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. They deserve their own shows on much broader platforms. Give it some consideration. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. More when we come forward on Thought Provoking Thursdays. Up next, Dr. Johnny Mack. More when we come forward. Thank you so much, Dr. Da Silva, and thank you, Dr. Karam.
Thank you so much.
Can't wait to see you guys soon. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. More on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. President Trump is reclassifying marijuana from a Schedule I to a Schedule III drug, easing federal restrictions.
This reclassification order will make it far easier to conduct marijuana-related medical research, allowing us to study benefits, potential dangers, and future treatments.
Trump says the change is meant to help Americans living with chronic pain and other serious health conditions. Former Vice President Kamala Harris says Democrats are, quote, stuck in the past, end quote, and often ignore new voices. Speaking on a podcast, she criticized the party for giving, quote, lip service, end quote, to listening without real engagement. And a lawyer says fired Michigan football coach Sharon Moore, who is Black, has a history of domestic violence against a university staffer. Moore was arrested December 10th, hours after being fired for an inappropriate relationship. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
For victims of drunk and drug driving, our grief is unique. But you are not alone. You always have a place at MAD. Call our 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Lakers and Clippers are on the road tonight. The Lakers are at Utah. They're 11-3 on the road. The Clippers are at Oklahoma City. Tough place for the Clippers to snap a 4-game losing streak. OKC is 24-2 and 12-0 at home. This has not been a good week off the field for Rams wide receiver Puka Nacua. He found out Thursday morning that his 27-year-old brother Samson was one of 2 men arrested by LA Sheriff's deputies for stealing a car that belongs to Lakers forward Adu Thiero. Nacua may get a call from the NFL office in New York regarding his critical comments about referees. During a live stream podcast on Tuesday, Nacua said some NFL refs make calls just so they can be shown on TV. Nacua had planned to do the podcast inside Rams headquarters. When Rams head coach Sean McVay heard about it, he told Nacua, not in here. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
This holiday season, KBLA Talk 1580 wishes you and yours joy, peace, and prosperity. As we celebrate with family and friends, we're already looking forward to an exciting first quarter, packed with must-attend events to kick off the new year just right. In January, join us for our inaugural Brotherhood Brunch, bringing together community leaders, change makers, and everyday people for inspiration and connection. February means it's time for our signature Black History Month luncheon, a powerful celebration you won't want to miss. And in March, Women's History Month, we're once again hosting our State of Black Women in Los Angeles Symposium and Luncheon, addressing the issues that matter most inside our community. From all of us at KBLA Talk 1580, happy holidays. Stay tuned for more details on these incredible upcoming events. KBLA Talk 1580, your voice, your community, your power.
Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Come on and talk with me.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on I had a couple of meetings today in Homewood, Illinois. And it would have been impossible for me to make the radio show in Chicago. So the owner, an African American, the owner of a new bookstore called Beyond the Book Literary Experience, opened up her bookstore to allow us the opportunity to do our show from her studio. And I can't thank Tania from Beyond the Book for making this opportunity possible for us and allowing us not to have to travel 45 minutes to rush in front of a show and be unrested, but to be present. More than just a bookstore, podcast studio, networking events, professional development, workshops for all ages, book signing events. Our community connection includes book clubs, community meetups, curated book collections, inspire creativity and innovation. And it's just absolutely beautiful. The aura, the smell, the diffuser is absolutely fantastic. But now we turn our attention to the serious business of World House with Johnny Mack. Dr. Johnny Mack is a social entrepreneur and scholar practitioner with expertise in the subject areas of peace, conflict, and social change and movements. He's traveled extensively throughout the Americas, Africa, Asia, Europe, and the Middle East, working in the fields of peace, development, conflict, and nonviolent social change. Dr. Mack's seminal work, After Confrontation, Then What, challenges the putative logic of nonviolent social change theory and practice. Particularly, he re-articulates nonviolence beyond the traditional understanding of nonviolent struggle as principally nonviolent resistance. Dr. Mack, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Good to be here.
Johnny, I'm so glad you're here. Doc, let me ask you a question. You listened to the last hour with Dr. P.L. Da Silva and Dr. Azza Karam. Please share with us your thoughts through your filter of what you heard.
It was a very interesting conversation, Jesse, and thanks for giving me an opportunity to express aloud some of those thoughts, because it's so important at this point in time in our development, as a human family, and particularly here in the U.S., but beyond our borders as well, this notion of democracy. The question is, what is democracy? How do we define it? Democracy is a political system, for example. It's also an economic system. It's also a social system. And, those systems operate as effectively as those who control them determine. And they benefit those who control them wish to benefit. That means also, Jesse, that democracy benefits and burdens its population, its polity, right? Depending upon who controls the levers of the democratic machine, small m. And so, democracy works, but politically, for example, Jesse, and by the way, you'll have to stop me. I'm sure I'll run over our segment.
Oh no, you got exactly 3.5 minutes. Keep on going, Johnny. That's a mini sermon right there, brother.
So Jesse, listen, democracy benefits those who are the majority. Never forget Lonnie Guarnier's book, The Tyranny of the Majority. So as long as I'm in the majority, I'm for democracy. But what about the rights of the minority? What about the rights of those minority groups? And I don't mean ethnic groups. I mean those who are in the minority number, whatever their human characteristics assigned, whether it's male, female, white, black, religious, whatever those characteristics are. The issue here is democracy tends to work for those who are in the majority and, Jesse, who operate and act in solidarity. What we're seeing now in the United States is the solidarity within the democratic system is falling apart, and has been falling apart over some time. And it's falling apart because of the divide between those who have and those who don't have. And these are all characteristics of the democratic process as we define it in the Western world. And so To the question, why has democracy failed? I listened carefully to Dr. Karam's 4 elements of values, implementation, understanding, and being inclusive. They are all certainly correct. I certainly embrace those notions that one must define what values drive democracy. How do we define the democratic process? And what determines who is benefited and who is burdened? Well, the values we ascribe to that democratic process determines that. And who determines the values? Those who have the power levers over democracy. We've been talking about this over the last several weeks of our sessions, Jesse, but we haven't framed it quite in these terms. And so this is a time quite apropos for this type of discussion. I can go on, but why don't I take a breath and a sip of water? And
I was hoping you would go on for at least one more minute, but go ahead and get your water. I do want to say that I found what Dr. Karam had to say to be particularly fascinating, because she undergirded the democratic infrastructure that we've packaged as Americans and attempted to deliver to the rest of the world. And she shared with us the critical institutions who benefit from that packaging, but it has never taken root. It has never been the seed that came up, even in our own republic, with the founding fathers coming from a revolutionary experience. We delivered democracy on a silver platter. We did not plant the seed. We did not nurture it. People did not understand that these were their rights they were fighting for and that they were defending. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. This is the World House with Dr. Johnny Mack. More when we come forward on the J Lunch program right here on KBLA Talk 1580.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Find what you love what you find. A total wine and more. There's so much waiting for you. Spirits and beer, thousands of wines. Guides in the know and prices so low. It just might blow your mind. You're gonna find what you love and love what you find.
With curbside pickup and delivery available, you'll always find what you love, only at Total Wine & More.
Drink responsibly, B21.
Check out the champagne. Everybody get a glass.
KBLA Talk 1580 congratulates our own Keith Underwood, host of the weekend entertainment show Black in the Green Room, on his recent honor at the annual National Arts and Entertainment Journalism Awards. Keith received a first place award presented by the Los Angeles Press Club for his entertainment reporting, and we couldn't be prouder. Congratulations, Keith, from all of us at KBLA Talk 1580.
Time is up. The IRS is in full collection mode for 2025, issuing liens, levies, and garnishments to anyone who has a past tax debt or unfiled tax returns. Don't wait till it's too late. Your paycheck and bank accounts are at risk of being seized. Call now and stop the collection process today. If you're living check to check, no matter how much you're making, you still may qualify for the Fresh Start programs offered by the IRS to reduce or even eliminate your tax debt. It's just a 5-minute call to get your options, and it's free. If you owe back taxes, have years of unfiled tax returns under audit, have a wage or bank levy, or finally just want to sleep better, business or personal, call the experts at Republic Tax Relief while there's still time. A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau, and tough. This veteran-owned company has the fight you need to take on the IRS. Don't go at it alone. The call is free. Call their hotline number now, 800-260-3330. That's 800-260-3330. Find out if you qualify today, 800-260-3330, or go to republictaxrelief.com.
Celebrate good times. Come on.
KBLA Talk 1580 congratulates Malik Books on celebrating 35 years in business.
It's a celebration.
Malik Books proudly houses one of the largest African American and diverse children's books in the nation. This is the perfect time to pick up holiday reads, meaningful gifts, and to support literacy in our community. For 35 years, Malik Books has stood strong in the Black Book Revolution, uplifting stories that heal, inspire, and transform. One reader at a time. Change your thoughts, change your life. Books are the gift that keeps giving. From all of us at KBLA Talk 1580, congratulations to Malik Books on 35 years of culture, pride, and community.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Volley, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the me.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. This is the World House with Dr. Johnny Mack on Thought Provoking Thursday. Dr. Mack's research includes extensive study of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s logic of nonviolence and the U.S. Civil Rights Movement. He explicates Dr. King's logic of nonviolence using King's call to restructure the social edifice, and particularly its triple evils of poverty, racism, and militarism, with a revolution of values that is effected through peaceable power. I want to hang around that part of your biography for a moment, Johnny, because I think Dr. Karam's insightful article, How Investing in Democracy Failed and Enabled Authoritarianism, speaks to an undergirding that Dr. King was attempting to provide our democratic society at the hour of his assassination. And in the absence of that, Dr. King may very well have seen exactly what Dr. Karam was talking about, just how fragile the republic truly is.
Jesse, I think you're absolutely right. And I think Dr. Karam is right. And of course, was not in the head of Dr. King. But my work and study, you are right, draws me to the conclusion that King foresaw much of what we have realized in today's political environment. And so when he calls for a restructuring of the edifice, remember, he calls for a restructuring of the edifice that produces beggars. But that edifice that produces beggars was only an example of the broader problem, the broader malady of how we prosecute and execute our democratic experiment. And so
Johnny,
King was calling for a reordering of that.
Johnny, let me ask you this question, because I really don't want to cut you off, because your thought process is so consistent and so clear and so forward-thinking at all times. But when we talk about beggars, I mean, everybody on the SNAP program, Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, is just one program away from being a beggar, right? I mean, when we talk about the Affordable Care Act, 44 million people right now, because Congress has not acted, are going to experience rising premiums and will have to choose between their medicine and their food during this period of congressional inaction. They're just one paycheck, if you will, or one illness away from becoming a beggar. So these programs that are being threatened right now, are showing just how thin the fiber and the string that democracy hangs on truly is, Johnny.
You know, Jesse, the point is so cogent. It's so important. Even more, Jesse, what happens here is we are so focused on ensuring that that little itsy bitty, teeny weeny, tiny string doesn't break, that we miss that the string itself is inadequate. Think about that. We are happy enough that that string remains intact. And so we fight for the subsidy that leaves us on the cliff, on the very edge of paycheck to paycheck, and hardly enough to make ends meet. Think about what we're saying here, Jesse. And so the 24 million and maybe 3 times that who struggle from day to day, from paycheck to paycheck, from vacation to vacation, from year to year just to make ends meet and to get by, miss the fact that that struggle isn't enough. If we had more than a teeny tiny string, but we had a robust rope like the privileged and the elite do, we had options beyond living from paycheck to paycheck, what would our lives be like? And so King is not arguing to keep that little itty bitty tiny string intact. He's saying the whole structure needs to be restructured, the whole system, the whole process.
It became clearer, and I think you've done a life's work that certainly lays the case that Dr. King is as relevant today as he was when he uttered the statement. But when I also look at the regime of U.S. aid that Dr. Karam is talking about, she's saying that we are flicking a coin to the international community. And when the coin is no longer flicked, democracy itself in those countries only was supported by these aid programs, and it benefited primarily an elite who did not have a true investment in the idea of government of, for, and by the people, for their own people. Talk to me, Johnny.
Well, now, Jesse, listen, again, back to King. King is saying flinging a coin to a beggar isn't enough. Don't we understand then that King is saying, at least in that context at that time, that that's how people understood democracy. And that's how people understand democracy today, particularly in what we call developing countries. And so when you talk about why has democracy failed and why are people turning to authoritarianism, it is because democracy simply doesn't recognize the fundamental values of human dignity and worth, that it provides no liberty to exercise that dignity and worth, and it builds no community so that we can collectively work together to realize a just and peaceful world. Democracy fails because of, remember, how we practice it. Democracy isn't a science, it's an art. And the question is, who's painting the picture? Who's providing the paint? Who is shaping, to mix metaphors, the clay that builds this statue? It is not the people, but it is a select group, and that select group has transitioned over time, spanning time from one generation to the next. And at some point, there are too many people. There are too many making demands on this system, and the system implodes because it can't support the many voices of those independent individuals, those human beings with basic human needs. And that's why we see democracy failing. It's how we define it. It's the values that undergird it.
Dr. Mack, take a mental flight with me to Venezuela and interpret that through your lens, please.
Well, okay, so if we're going to keep this in the context of democracy, Venezuela, like so many other countries, are very complex. And Venezuela operates in a geopolitical system. And so we understand Venezuela not just apart from, or not just within the context of the realities that we see today, but we understand it in the context of this broader geopolitical system. So the conversations that they may be having on CNN are not the conversations that are being had in the conference rooms and the offices and the boardrooms of corporations or of seats of government. Venezuela is an independent sovereign nation, and it's a resource-rich independent sovereign nation. Who determines how those resources will be exploited and who will benefit and be burdened by that exploitation? Well, currently it is argued that there is an authoritarian regime that is denying the people of Venezuela that decision-making process, and therefore robbing them of the benefits of that great nation's resources. On the other hand, we heard just recently, within I believe the last 24 or so hours, that somehow one nation lost access to those resources and we want access returned to us. Put that in the context of the struggle between the US and Venezuela. Who's going to benefit from the end of this struggle? And how will that end manifest itself? What will be the end? Who will truly be benefited if Maduro is dethroned? And who will be burdened?
Our previous guest said that Chevron continues to pump oil and move oil out of Venezuela and is not subject to Donald Trump's embargo. That Chevron's oil from Venezuela is still on its way to Texas. It is not being fired upon or boarded by U.S. ships. That oil is still leaving Venezuela en route to the United States, but only Chevron, an American-based company, is dealing and benefiting from that transaction. That, for me, was as shocking as any revelation that I've heard anywhere else in the world. Johnny, I've got about 5 minutes before we come forward and before we get to the half break. Take this mental flight with me now to Nigeria, where the president of the United States, another oil-rich nation, somehow he seems to be concerned about Negro Christians in a Muslim country in Africa. Johnny, if it weren't so laughable, it would just be shameful. Johnny, what's going on there? It sounds like a Venezuela part 2.
Venezuela part 2. Well, Jesse, I'm just a simple guy who learned how to read in the 5th grade. And, I don't know much, but I do know that you talked about these great big ships from Chevron in the Caribbean that transport oil from one nation state to the next, but you didn't talk about those little boats that somehow are meeting a sudden end, and the people on them who are somehow threatening the 360 million people in the United States. Well, I make no judgment about whether they are threatening them or not, but here's my point, Jesse. You also mentioned, or we talked about, the resources and the oil in Venezuela. And as you point out, resources and oil in Nigeria happen to be the issue at hand. And so is the United States really concerned about these little boats carrying alleged drug to the U.S.? And is the United States really concerned about those Negro Christians, as you frame it, in Nigeria? Or is the United States concerned about Atika Dangote's oil refinery that's under construction as we speak? Do the American people and the rest of the global world know that this oil refinery being built by the richest Black man on the African continent happens to be, when it's done, the largest oil refinery in the world?
Wow.
Not on the African continent. It will produce, when it is done, or at least have the capacity to produce when it is done, the largest in all of the world. What does that mean? How is it that an African country, an African nation state, will now have that kind of power and capacity? And what will that do, Jesse? Stay with me, and our listeners, stay with me. What will that do to the economy, not only in Nigeria, but what will that do to the economy on the African continent? And what will that do to the economy globally when we have a fossil fuel-based economy? Think about it.
You've just blown my mind, part two. Dan Goatee, who is the wealthiest man on the African continent and one of the wealthiest men in the history of the world, is a multi-billionaire African who has transcontinental businesses across the entire African continent. His products range from chemicals to oil to producing corn to raising harvests to construction. Just an amazing man with an amazing repertoire of business interests. But this oil refinery in Nigeria, as Dr. Mack has suggested, will be the largest, most efficient, and newest fossil fuel plant on Earth. Methinks Donald Trump is thinking about that. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. More with Dr. Johnny Mack when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. A Miami family is pleading for answers after anti-gun violence activist and Black restaurant owner Dwight Wells was gunned down in October.
People don't know how I hurt because I want to know who is the murderer.
Wells was shot outside of his Winning and One Turkey Legs restaurant and the shooter took off. A Cook County judge has dismissed a lawsuit from former Chicago mayoral candidate Paul Vallas. Vallas claimed a consultant failed to deliver $700,000 in campaign services, including boosting support in Black neighborhoods. And Washington, D.C.'s Black Mayor Muriel Bowser is calling for an internal review after a House oversight report accused city police leaders of manipulating crime stats. While introducing interim police chief Jeffrey Carroll, Bowser questioned the report's context and evidence, but said the inspector general will look into the claims and respond to the public's concerns. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
For victims of drunk and drug driving, our grief is unique, but you are not alone. You always have a place at MAD. Call our 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Lakers and Clippers are on the road tonight. The Lakers are at Utah. They're 11-3 on the road. The Clippers are at Oklahoma City. Tough place for the Clippers to snap a 4-game losing streak. OKC is 24-2 and 12-0 at home. This has not been a good week off the field for Rams wide receiver Puka Nacua. He found out Thursday morning that his 27-year-old brother Samson was one of 2 men arrested by LA Sheriff's deputies for stealing a car that belongs to Lakers forward Adu Thiero. Nacua may get a call from the NFL office in New York regarding his critical comments about referees. During a live stream podcast on Tuesday, Nacua says some NFL refs make calls just so they can be shown on TV. Nacua had planned to do the podcast inside Rams headquarters. When Rams head coach Sean McVay heard about it, he told Nacua, "Not in here. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need." That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
This holiday season, KBLA Talk 1580 wishes you and yours joy, peace, and prosperity. As we celebrate with family and friends, we're already looking forward to an exciting first quarter, packed with must-attend events to kick off the new year just right. In January, join us for our inaugural Brotherhood Brunch, bringing together community leaders, change makers, and everyday people for inspiration and connection. February means it's time for our signature Black History Month luncheon, a powerful celebration you won't want to miss. And in March, Women's History Month, we're once again hosting our State of Black Women in Los Angeles Symposium and Luncheon, addressing the issues that matter most inside our community. From all of us at KBLA Talk 1580, happy holidays. Stay tuned for more details on these incredible upcoming events. KBLA Talk 1580, your voice, your community, your power.
In a city as big as LA, healthcare shouldn't feel far away. That's why Cedars-Sinai is breaking down barriers and bringing resources like free screenings, vaccinations, and wellness programs into local communities. From Leimert Park to Lincoln Heights and everywhere in between, Cedars-Sinai is showing up, partnering with over 200 local organizations to improve access to healthcare resources. Because care doesn't just happen inside a hospital. It happens in neighborhoods and places around the city where we live, work, and grow. Cedars-Sinai, here for LA.
Nugget Bills, nuggets all the way.
Hi, I'm Kylie.
I'm John.
And I'm Garrison.
And a little thing we love about the 30-count Chick-fil-A nuggets
is sharing them when we cut down the Christmas tree.
We will pack the car with gifts. And of course, we go and pick up our family's favorite nuggets.
Every nugget is tasty times quadrillion.
And we get all the sides.
Yeah, the ooey gooey mac and cheese is a big hit.
Share the nuggets, share the joy. Order the 30-count Chick-fil-A nuggets on the Chick-fil-A app. Real guests paid for their testimonials.
When you turn to the Employment Development Department, we'll help you get there. Whether it's support for you and your family while you find a new job, or the resources to focus on your recovery after illness or injury, we can help you move forward. From support while you bond with your newborn, to helping serve your family while your partner serves our country. Your EDD. We'll help you get there. For more information, visit edd.ca.gov.
You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Volley, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. Dr. Johnny Mack is a social entrepreneur and scholar practitioner with expertise in subject areas of peace, conflict, and social change and movements. He's traveled throughout the Americas, Africa, Asia, Europe, and the Middle East, working in the fields of peace, development, conflict, and nonviolent social change. His seminal work includes, but is not limited to, understanding at a deeper level the metalogic of Martin Luther King Jr.'s nonviolent thinking, which culminates in a fundamental restructuring not only of social edifices, but a fundamental restructuring of our personal and national values. Dr. Mack, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Thank you for having me, Jesse.
Dr. Mack, let me continue this mental flight with you, because we've been to Venezuela together. Now we have these little skiffs being blown up by the U.S. military, and yesterday Donald Trump said that that's our oil anyway, which is crazy. We have traveled to Nigeria in the last hour to look at the Christian and the Muslim problem, where Dangote is now building the largest oil refinery, and Donald Trump has turned his attention to that. Can we take a mental flight to, let's just say, Ukraine? Absence of a peace deal, or the president's interest even in a peace deal any longer. But he seems to have escaped thus far with at least a critical minerals deal. Johnny?
Yeah, Jesse, if I may just quickly, I missed Dangote's first name is not Atika. I just wanted to correct that. His first name is Aliko Dangote. Atika is an Arabic word for ancient or
whenever I've been on the continent, all you see is a Dangote commercial. So
It's important to call a man by or a woman by their right name. Yeah, so now we're in Ukraine. But isn't it interesting, Jesse, that in each one of these major conflict areas, at least that gets the attention of major media, that point in itself is a conversation for a show. But for those conflicts around the globe that get the attention of the major media, so we've seen Venezuela, rich in resources. We have talked about Nigeria, just so happens rich in resources. And lo and behold, Jesse, we're now in Ukraine. And guess what's there?
Rich in resources.
Rich in resources. And it's just amazing how the world, Jesse, is being divided up once again. And who's making claims to those resources as the world evolves with new technologies that extend beyond the digital age into the AI and quantum computing age, and what is needed to further exploit economies in this new age. And so it's the same story.
John, in this moment, I'm thinking about Patrice Lumumba. I'm thinking about him declaring the Congo as belonging to the Congolese and all that dwells under the feet of the Congolese. And I guess the Belgians. They were like, brother, we said you free, but we did not say that everything under your feet essentially is yours. We're still here now. Is that what I'm hearing here, Johnny? That America is saying, we're still here. You can have democracy on the surface level of your country. That is, we want you to vote for some candidate of your choice. This idea that you can support a president for a country or for the head of this government structure, but underneath your feet, we still lay a claim to anything that we may need in the future. And we are prepared to dig 10 feet, 100 feet, or 1,000 feet underneath your soil to get what we need. And
Yeah.
in history.
It's amazing. I don't know if you've ever been to the Congo, but literally there's some places in the Congo where you walk and you find gold literally under your foot, under your foot or under your feet. It is arguably, perhaps not the richest, but arguably one could say the richest in minerals in terms of a country or a nation state on the planet.
It's Wakanda, no doubt about it.
Yes, resources. And so once again, we find ourselves in this mental trip in a country where the issue is resources and who gets them and the deals that are being struck over those resources. Now, the Congo has been fighting with Rwanda for years, and suddenly now there's this desire to bring peace to that area. And certainly peace is important. We certainly don't denounce any effort to bring peace, especially to a people who have been so burdened by conflict and war. But will this peace truly bring to the people of the Congo a world of justice? And what type of peace? You know, Jan Galtung talked about two types of peace. There is negative peace and there is positive peace. Negative peace is where there is still conflict, but the guns of war are silent. There's still oppression. There is still marginalization. There is still disposition. But in positive peace is the presence of justice. And the question is this peace deal that we are hearing about between Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of the Congo going to bring the people positive peace or negative peace? Well, we find that the fighting is still taking place in the Congo, even as you and I speak. The fighting has not been abated. And so what's really happening here?
It looks like a crime to me that we extract from the conflict. The Trump doctrine has to be this: find a conflict, create a conflict, and then extract something from the conflict while people on the surface of the conflict are fighting. Or allow them to continue to fight, but we come in for what we need under the surface of the fight. You guys can fight terrestrially, we come to dig. If you don't have a problem with that, we'll pick one side of the conflict, engage in it. And now, I'm not going to, I mean, you're blowing up all these little boats in Venezuela. At some point in time, you're going to have to ask yourself the next question. Who next is going to be in the drug business?
Well, because who is in the drug business now?
That's right. This is going to sound like a Harrison Ford movie in a moment where, we're going to slow down production of, this is I'm not going to speculate. Go see the movie. I'm too old to engage in conspiracy theories. I only want the facts. But I so untrust the American regime on these questions that there's almost always a grift or a crime right underneath the policy. Who shows up in these parts of the world shortly after the conflict? Here comes Jared Kushner. And then they let a little cat out of the bag, in the Gaza Strip. We're going to rebuild it and turn it into some kind of Mediterranean paradise. And he doesn't care where the Palestinians live, because can you imagine all of this lakefront, oceanfront, Mediterranean front property? There is a grift behind the conflict that the President of the United States and his team are prepared to participate in. Johnny, we have about 30 seconds before we come forward.
Well, just one other point about the DR Congo and that peace agreement. Let's just think about this. In return, the DRC, in return for access to his minerals, don't miss this, the DRC gets infrastructure development. Think about that. What infrastructure? Well, you need infrastructure to extract and then to transport those minerals out of the country.
That's right. From the hole that they dug to the nearest train depot.
Exactly. You got it, Jesse.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to Johnny Mac on the World House on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. This is the J Lunch program. More when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
If you've been diagnosed with moderate to severe plaque psoriasis, this is what it sounds like to be a million miles away. Imagine being a million miles away. Tremfya guselkumab, taken by injection, is a prescription medicine for adults with moderate to severe plaque psoriasis who may benefit from taking injections or pills or phototherapy. With Tremfya, clearer skin is possible. In clinical trials, at least 70% of patients saw at least 90% clearer skin at 16 weeks. Results may vary. Tremfya is also indicated for adults with active psoriatic arthritis. Serious allergic reactions and increased risk of infections and liver problems may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check you for infections and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, flu-like symptoms, or if you need a vaccine. Ask your doctor about Tremfya. Call 1-800-526-7736 or visit tremfya.com.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 reminds you that we keep us safe. Every girl deserves a chance to shine. That's the belief behind Forgiving for Living, Inc. Since 1999, this organization has been empowering at-risk girls ages 13 to 18, helping them overcome behavioral and mental health challenges. Founder Wendy Gladney's personal journey inspired the mission to give girls hope and purpose through the power of forgiveness. Through their ambassador program, workshops, and annual conference, Forgiving for Living has touched over 3,000 young lives, providing mentoring, life skills, training, and tools for building self-esteem and confidence. You can make a difference. Visit forgivingforliving.org to donate, volunteer, become a mentor, or find help for a young girl in need. Forgiving for Living Inc., building brighter futures for young girls. Visit forgivingforliving.org today. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. The Autopsy Initiative provides a second autopsy free of charge for victims' families who have lost their loved ones due to a police-related death. The services offered through the initiative include the completion of a second autopsy, disclosure of preliminary findings, and a final autopsy report. A police-related death is when an individual is harmed by police officers using deadly force, which results in an individual's death. Police-related death includes in-custody deaths, including those that arise during contact with law enforcement officers during arrest, pursuit, booking, transport, or incarceration. The Autopsy Initiative has a team of board-certified pathologists on call. An autopsy request may be completed by anyone with a close relationship with the victim, which may include the victim's spouse, partner, relative, close friend, or lawyer. To request a free second autopsy for a victim of police violence, please visit knowyourrightscamp.com. That's knowyourrightscamp.com. Then click on Autopsy, then click on Request. At KBLA, we believe in justice for victims of police violence. We say their names, and we don't black down. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Are you coughing a lot, especially at night? Are you often short of breath? Are you using your rescue inhaler often? These could be signs that your asthma is not under control. To keep your asthma in check and help prevent an asthma attack, ask your healthcare provider for an asthma action plan. This is a personalized plan you create with your doctor that shows you what to do and what medicines to help control your asthma and to use when you're having a hard time breathing or when you're having an asthma attack. Please don't wait until you're having an asthma attack. Do something about it now. Schedule a visit with your healthcare provider today to make that action plan and take control of your asthma. For more tips and resources on the management of asthma, visit luma-edu.com. This message is brought to you by Amgen and AstraZeneca.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Volley, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You've been listening to the J Lunch Club on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Our very special guest on Thought Provoking Thursdays in the World House is with Dr. Johnny Mack. Johnny Mack, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show, and welcome forward to your show, The World House, on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm glad to be here, Jesse. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share our ideas about the World House.
Johnny, can you share with us how we can support your work?
You can support us at theworldhouseproject.org. The World House Project, all one word, theworldhouseproject.org. You can learn more about our work there. And there's a little button you can click on where it will give you an opportunity to make a tax-deductible contribution to our work.
That part right there, tax deductible. Put the World House Project under your Christmas tree. And I'm also asking those within the range of my listening voice to stop by KBLA Talk 1580 in Lamert Park. Give a little gift to Tavis, a little gift to KBLA Talk 1580. Support the work of Dominique DePrima, Tavis Smiley, Jesse Jackson Jr., Brother Zoe, and Nee Quartelai Corte. We are doing the best we can this year and in the new year to keep it real, to keep it straight, and to give it to you straight and absolutely no chaser. Dr. Johnny Mack, how can we support your work one more time?
At theworldhouseproject.org.
Dr. Mack, we're coming to the end of our show in about 7 minutes. If you can, how investing in democracy failed and enabled authoritarianism. Can you share with us your final thoughts on the importance of this understanding?
Well, I think that, as we said at the top of the hour, Jesse, the democracy is not a science, it's an art. It is practice in the same way that medicine is an art. Yes, there's science behind medicine, but ultimately it's an art. And how well one applies their knowledge, their skills, their values. And that's what we find in democracy. And it seems that democracy has failed, or democracy fails when it fails to support the fundamental values or rights, we call them human rights, natural rights, of the people it is intended to serve. I've not read the book that you discussed in the last hour, but I'm certain that it speaks to these underlying values of what I like to call human dignity and liberty and community, because they are the values that King wrote about in his writing on the ethical demands of integration, in case our readers want to understand better those values that King wanted to replace the values of poverty, racism, and militarism. And note the words I use, Jesse. We call poverty, racism, and militarism what King called them, the triple evils. They are evils because they represent values that deny the dignity and worth of humanity and benefit some and burdens others. And he wants to replace those values of poverty, racism, and militarism with a new set of values. And what are they? Read the ethical demands of integration. And there you will find King's articulation of what I like to call the triple virtues.
The triple virtues.
The triple virtues of human dignity, of freedom to exercise one's dignity and worth and realize their full potential. That's the second virtue or value that King wants to replace. And the third is human solidarity or community. King sees in this world house another metaphor. And the first metaphor again being, we live in a world house, one large house where we must all learn to live together as brothers and sisters, or King says we'll perish as fools. Another metaphor he uses is the beloved community. So community is central to King's logic of nonviolence, building a community that embraces all humanity. So dignity, liberty, and community are the triple virtues, those values around which we organize, back to your first question or your central question, of democracy. A democracy built on the foundation of recognizing that all humans share equal dignity and worth. A democracy fundamentally built on the value of freedom and liberty to exercise one's human dignity and worth and realize their full potential. And a democracy built on community is what King saw as a revolution of values.
Johnny, you know, I was profoundly disappointed last night in the speech delivered by the President of the United States to the nation and therefore the world. I didn't see much hope in it. Disappointment's an understatement. I'm thinking in this moment as we head into the Christian Christmas season. I meant to say the Christmas season because Hanukkah is being celebrated and Christianity celebrates the birth of Jesus of Nazareth at the same time. I'm thinking there is an alternative message that could have been delivered. And in this moment, you might have a word or two to say about that. We have about a minute and 30 seconds.
So this is the big question about hope, a word of hope. And, I often say when you ask that question, Jesse, is, that hope is in ourselves. if we're going to put our hope in a president, we're setting ourselves up for any president, man or woman, Democrat or Republican. Hope in one individual or any group of individuals is a misguided hope. We collectively, in consistency with those three fundamental values, remember dignity, liberty, and community. Well, that third value of community is all inclusive, as Dr. Karan was saying, in terms of the four elements of democracy, that inclusiveness. It includes all of us. And so we must trust and hope and depend upon each other. And that's where I find my hope. I find it in you. And I hope, Jesse, you find it in me. And I hope together we will reach out and find it in those who listen to us from one week to the next. That is the hope that I think the world waits for and rests on.
I'm so grateful that Johnny gave us that word of hope. I'm fairly confident that next Thursday, which is Christmas, that we will not be live on the air, but I couldn't resist getting a word of hope from Johnny Mack this early in the season. Johnny, so grateful for your leadership, so grateful for the program, and so grateful to KBLA. More when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You've been listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
KBLA